Easy game.
Oh, look at that.
Easy game.
Beautiful.
So, lads, we're going to talk about a topic that we hear thrown around a lot, shallowing the shaft, right? First of all, let's talk about what is the difference between a steep and shallow shaft pertaining to the downswing.
Okay, so let's get Alex into position here. Swing it up to the top. There it is, beautiful. So we see a lot of players initiate that transition and they get the club into a more almost vertical position, which is pretty much getting you into that steep position and you're out to win. Probably the most common position, isn't it?
Yeah.
Position we'd like to maybe see is shaft of the club as we look down the line, working on a bit more of that 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
So getting it away from vertical, more down into like your 45-degree. 2 inside then, we get it. I mean, I've never really seen that, but 2 shallow.
You definitely missed the ball. But
Yeah, oh, there is, absolutely.
And funnily enough, when we see players work through their golf swings, let's say you go on Dr. Google and you're going, okay, I'm struggling with my ball striking. What is a clickbaity term that we can use? It's like rotating and shallowing are probably the top 2 that float around. And we see a lot of players make these huge adjustments throughout their swing in this attempt to achieve what they perceive is going to increase their level of proficiency with ball striking. But a lot of what we see with a steep versus shallow shaft is simply an effect. And if they built a better backswing and transition, the shaft would naturally shallow by itself. So I want you to talk about that, guys.
For me, I'd almost say that the reason why people are clickbaity on being shallow is because if you get a golfer shallower, it will give them a better ability to rotate through it. That's inevitably what you do it for. But the amount how shallow you are depends how good you are at rotating on the way through. So yeah, you've got all those precursors that allow you to be shallow or steep, but the amount shallow or the amount steep you should have. You've got somebody who's really poor at rotating, it makes sense to get them a little bit more here so that they can get down on top of the golf ball. That's kind of what I relate it to as well. So you can do some tests and things like that to help.
Yeah. So it shows how important getting personalized golf instruction is, be it online coaching, which we all do, or in person. Just because then you know that you're getting these specific diagnosis and drills and exercises relative to what you actually need, not because you think that you need it. Right?
Yeah, okay. And a lot of players were kind of self-diagnosed based on a ball flight, which let's be sometimes 7 times out of 10 they kind of get the ball flight wrong. You see the ball moving from left to right per round. The golfer immediately thinks slice. It could have been push slice. They could have actually been too shallow.
Yeah.
So that the self-diagnosis is so important for then how you go try and create the fix. So we see if we go up to the old top of the backswing again. I think one of the key things that we try and get is the correct sequencing on the way down. So if we start to see golfers moving that way, one of the key ones I see a lot of, because we're so obsessed with rotation, is even that knee goes in there, that foot goes up, and there's only one way you can go from that position. How's that feel?
You look like you're about to fall. The old goat humping position, that one.
They think, get to the top, turn, and that's out there.
And with that as well, that correlates for me is when you get somebody that comes this way first, 9 times out of 10 by doing that, it helps them get the club back on the inside, but that's when they get too far from the inside. Yeah, they're thinking they're chopping it steep, but in actual fact, by doing that and going that way, they've got too far from the inside, which is why they see, well, flip it.
Yeah,
correct. So let's talk about now a tangible drill or exercise players can work on at home and at the range that is going to help build a feel, and also let's use some visual checkpoints as well that they can then establish for where they should be in the downswing. Forget about the shallowing versus steep, but just where the golf swing is going to be easiest for them to collect the ball, all things being equal.
If you organise the backswing in a way, the downswing should start to move how you want it to anyway, depending on what forces and whatever you apply to the grit from the top. But if you're somebody that, wants to get a little bit shallower, there's plenty of drills you can do to help. But again, you need to make sure it's essential for you. You can do one where you kind of get the arm in front, that helps the shaft move this way. Plenty of others, but focusing more so on, if you got the club's centre of mass here, imagining that is falling behind the hands is the key point, as opposed to just feeling that
too much manipulation on a forearm roll.
The centre of mass here, from this position, gets behind. that's when you know that you're going to get the club into the delivery position to allow you to rotate. So I think focusing on this point, the centre of mass is obviously where the club's
The waist block, yeah.
And Karts, would you say a lot of that has got to be down to the transition move and being patient, so they're not rushing in?
Yeah. So like I said before, that first thing we see a lot of is that right knee flying forward. But if you can get to the top of the backswing and be aware of, I always kind of say to players, when you're trying to think about this, obviously naturally the lower body, we need it to pressure into that kind of lead side. I often try and make them feel like that knee and the knees moving in towards the lead knee. And even like the ankles move, right ankles kind of rotating down into the ground. So it's more that move, and that'll kind of help you get a bit of pressure into that lead side. But also then it allows that transition to be a little bit more on play, and you get that lead, like you get that trail elbow more in front of the chest on the way down, and you start to kind of it's more of a feel, and a really quite an exaggerated feel with the lower body moving in this. Then you're not thinking about a hip move. It's just literally getting away from that and just feeling that motion there, and just feel like I always kind of say keep the trail foot on the ground, but roll the instep, so we'll get the outstep kind of off the ground. And this is a really good one as well. Yeah,
Standing on the club head, as you can see when Clubby does that, what that does is that just builds awareness that this heel is down on the ground. And what we see with a lot of people that would be rotating aggressively to the top and get an early extension, well, we would see that would drop down from that position. So simply just standing on any club, generally use a wedge for this, so it's actually sticking up quite high. It's easy to put under, and therefore if it drops out, you know that is. And what will happen automatically from doing that, Clappy, is you're going to see that shaft is going to begin to move in an orientation where it will naturally move shallow behind. Now, lads, tying a bow on this for everyone, really at the end of the day, we see that a lot of the time players don't necessarily need to shallow their golf swing, do they? What do they need to do?
transition it a lot better.
Yeah, sequence, understand their own movement, understand the importance of what they need to do versus someone else, the personalized instruction element of it again, not getting it so that it's tailored to suit you, not somebody else, and understanding what it's going to do to positively affect what the ball's going to do.
And I think that's so important, right? And the only reason anyone should make a change is because the outcome is not matching their expectations of what they would like to achieve. If you are down at the range, you're working on your golf swing for the sake of changing the aesthetic of it.
Yeah, which a lot of people do.
Which they do.
Which we do.
Yeah. It's a very, very slippery slope of frustration and anger and poor scores, right? So
absolutely.
There you go, guys. A great little discussion there based around shallowing the shaft, the difference between steep and shallow, and if you at home should be doing it. Fellas, thanks very much for your time. Great job.